what would you have said was your biggest challenges or obstacles before commencing the coaching process?
I think we all, majority of us coaches have this, I don't know if ego is the right word, because if it is somebody who has actually invested in themselves, many of us do know at least we have a baseline understanding of what we have to do. Major reason I felt was, I honestly believe accountability is a big thing. And that's just as with, the clients that we coach. Even for coaches, I mean, you train under Cal, so you know it as well. I mean, all of us, regardless of how good we are, there will always be somebody who is better than us, or at least who knows how to manage as well.
Yeah.
Right. So that was my reason for, I believe we got on a call in November, and yeah, we had a Zoom meeting back then, and you clearly laid out how things work. I mean, I knew back then, yeah, definitely I'm coming back. So I was going on vacation, and then when I came back here, so the major thing I would say to all coaches would be accountability. I mean, especially when you're busy working and all these things, it will come. It's actually funny because we do make fun of our clients, saying that, for 5 days we'll keep everything in check, and then 2 days you'll just go and party. Like many of us, we may not necessarily be partying and completely letting it go, but still, we'll just let it go during the weekends, or at some point we are like, okay, next day we'll take it along. It's all about consistency. I think having a coach helps everyone with consistency. Anybody who's serious about their goals definitely needs a coach, or at least somebody who they're accountable to. I think it only helps.
It's funny you mentioned about the whole weekend thing, and we refer to it as like the weekend sabotage. It's many coaches are much closer to the mentality of Gen Pop clients than they actually think. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. At the end of the day, we're human as well. But what I would say is that if you are in the game of body composition, I do believe you have to lead by example. And so, like you said, we're all human. We all go through periods where we're maybe not quite as dialed in or struggling to get as dialed in as we'd like to. And so, like our clients hire us for, it does make a lot of sense to really get someone on board to oversee and just, hold us accountable to our own processes so that we just show up better for ourselves. And as a result, we show up better for our clients and set that example for them as well. Outside of the physical results we achieved together, what were the other significant changes you experienced throughout the coaching process?
I was very much, usually when we are on a prep or anything, we associate that with being grumpy and all that, right? So at least until the last 4 weeks, I was getting my work done very, very efficiently. Like I was working on the floor. I mean, everything was going good. I mean, I was doing sessions, be it online, offline, whatever it may be. And it also helped me get back to the level which, I know I can be at. I think initially when you get into a commercial gym, because of the fact that there's a lot of supposed sales pressure and all this, we are just like, okay, do the sessions, get out. We stop working on ourselves. I think education wise and all these things, we are like, okay, the session is done. We are reaching back at a God knows when. Then you're just on the bed, you wake up, it's the same thing that goes on. And there's hardly any, I would say, in terms of a goal, there wasn't much. Okay, I'm doing my sessions, I'm getting my pay. That was pretty much it. But with the prep, the good thing was I was actually dialed in, not just in terms of how my prep was, but in terms of work as well, I was a lot dialed in.
Let's talk about the physique. How happy were you with the end product that we were able to bring to your show in Goa?
I think we nailed it. Even during our first conversation, I think we both had, the only thing you told me was, we will be ready, and we'll be ready ahead of time. And we all know, I mean, anybody who followed me on social media also knew, like, I was one of the few guys walking around with a six-pack all year. And I was ready. I think even our prep was smooth because we only needed to diet down for, say, around 20 weeks. So that itself, explains everything. And for the show as well, obviously, there were some tough weeks, but you expect that with the prep. That's quite a normal thing. I mean, if you sign up for it, that's how it works. But I would say, especially for the men's physique, the final call out, I don't think either you or me, we could have done anything more. We literally nailed it. There is other data which, we can collect and maybe work upon the next time we do start, because everything is data, right? You can't go out there and compete against 250 athletes and always expect to come out on top, at least, be first. When you consider that I've been away from competing for a long time and it's been just, yo-yo sort of dieting and training, in a year's time, yeah, it was great that I got back on track. And, I thought, I honestly do believe that we bought the package that we wanted to. I mean, I was peeled. I'm pretty sure I was the most conditioned guy on stage. I think for conditioning wise, I don't think anybody, could have beaten me, at least from the front.
Definitely not. I mean, honestly, the package was outstanding. It really was. And like you said, it was as good, if not better, than we could have possibly anticipated. With that said, to be and I'm always very self-critical as a coach as well. If there was something that I could and would have done differently the next time, is to your point, you said that you were, literally ready early. Well, I would say we were ready too early. I don't think I fully understood just how quickly you'd respond to what we were doing. And honestly, I didn't push you too hard on the calories or anything like that, but you just leaned out so quick. So I think if I were to redo things the next time, or as you rightly mentioned, what gets measured gets managed, and we have data we can use for next season or the next time we work together, is I would make the prep shorter. You don't need the 20 weeks that we put together. I think if we'd have planned a 16-week time frame, we could have been ready at 12, 13 weeks out, and then we would have had still enough time to, test out our refeed protocols and everything else like that. So that definitely from my side was a big reflection point of that. And it's also just a good lesson for the other coaches out there and other prep coaches, especially if you're new getting into this, is that you really have to treat the individual. Like if you've got this idea that everyone is going to be a 20-week prep, a 24-week prep, I'm sorry, but you're going to have athletes like Punnen who are just great responders that you may have to accept that, well, is it worth maybe even jumping into an earlier show? And we even discussed that as well, right? That we would potentially an earlier show. In the end, we decided not to, and we just decided to, well, let's cruise, let's bring your foot up for a little bit first, keep that there for a while, and then we can start digging in again. But yeah, to your point, if I were to do something different, it would have just been to actually have a shorter prep time frame from you. So that, like you said, speaks volumes about the fact that we knew we were going to be ready on time. We just didn't know how on time we were going to be, which was very early. So that is definitely a cool learning lesson for me, certainly even coaching you throughout that process.
Just like you said, there is this whole thing going around, like everybody has to prep for 24 weeks or 32 weeks and all that stuff. It just, people may think that, getting ready early is sometimes very good, but it's not, especially when you're like very low on body fat and, everything starts to drop. And it's not a good feeling, right? Sometimes, but it's the first time working together. So I'm also I do assess things, as you know. So when you're working with a coach for the very first time, you have to understand that there may be things that may not go exactly as you planned. But as long as there's an open conversation between the coach and the client, I don't think that's a problem. It was not about not getting results, right? I mean, I had the results, but it was just a bit too early.
And that's okay. That's just part of, like you say, working with an athlete, learning each other, learning rates of loss and sort of response to different intakes and output and expenditure. And so we now know, like we said, we have that data. We know we can use that moving forward, which is cool. That will only serve us well in the future. When it comes to your goals, it's been about 8 months now since we last worked together. What's next for you? What's next for your health and fitness goals at this stage?
You pretty well know that I transitioned into freelancing. So, setting that up, sometimes that comes up as an excuse, because what I learned from the prep was the rebound phase, having a coach or, just sometimes making sure that you don't go on vacation during the rebound phase can actually be a good thing. Just, get back in the gym. I mean, I still train, so I'm still training hard. That is a good thing. I mean, I haven't lost, I haven't completely let go, but the tracking, the accountability part goes off, especially if you don't continue with the coach. And I've seen that for myself, because one or two of the boys who competed in ICN along with me, who I was coaching, they rebounded like more than I could imagine. Like, I don't even recognize those guys. So I am back here thinking like, I should have actually, okay, maybe I let go for 3 weeks. I should have just come back to you. But then, some unexpected things came up. But I would still say I'm looking at a good off season or two. As you know, when it's natural bodybuilding or enhanced or whatever you do, off seasons are where, I believe champions are made. It's not during the prep. I mean, you can cut them down. You can cut down. If the athlete and the coach are on the same page, 100% it will happen. But you need something to show, right? The next time you're on stage, it should be a better package. And for that, I do believe working with a coach in the off season is maybe even more important than during a prep. And most of us don't do that, because all of us, when it's a prep, yes, we do hire a coach, we work with a coach. Sometimes all of us give everything. As soon as the prep is over, we are like, next time when we prep, we will, go to the coach or whatever that is. So one thing I've learned is off season is just as, if not more important than a prep.
Well, my view on this, I couldn't agree more. I literally did a post the other day about the biggest opportunity that coaches are missing working with hiring a coach for themselves. And it's when as soon as they're about to diet, either it's just to do a tidy up, a photo shoot, or it's a prep, then they're like, well, that's the time to get in. It's like, well, is it though? Because is it the best time to actually be productive and build your physique? So exactly to your point, we did have a little bit of time to do that before we started your prep. But for me, and I can take my example of my client, Huz, we've spent so much time working on improving his physique. We've hardly dieted. Only recently did we actually just do, after a year and 3/4 of working together, his first proper dieting phase. And it shows, like when you see those before and after photos of when he started to when he is now, it's literally like from a boy to a man. Like it's an astronomical difference. Why? Because he's invested the time in that improvement phase and in maintenance phases to consolidate that progress. So yeah, to your point, I think we obviously spoke over Instagram message before we got on this call, and you were sort of saying that you were excited to get into a proper off season. And for me, that is just such a champion's mentality, like you said, because I do think that really when you step on stage from 1 year to the next, or from one season to maybe a couple of seasons later, it's how you carry yourself and conduct yourself in that off season, how diligent you are. That's really what's going to make the difference. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with you on that. So I think it's fair to say that we had a pretty positive experience working together. So my question to you is if someone watches this video and they're maybe sitting on the fence and they're thinking about, well, maybe I want to reach out to Ross and inquire about working with him, what would you say to those individuals that are maybe on the fence or maybe hesitating about reaching out?
The problem with a lot of coaches is, we complain about clients not paying us enough, and then we have the same problem, right? Especially in Dubai, you are quite aware of it. So you should be willing to invest. End of the day, definitely over a conversation or maybe over a Zoom call. When you have the call, I think a coach and a client can set expectations. And if the expectations and if they can match on what's expected of them, I think they should definitely go ahead, because not everybody works with everyone, right? Like we had this conversation too. Like you're very straightforward. You do tell the coaches or whoever comes to you for a prep or whatever that is, what do you expect of them? And I think that's how it should be. It shouldn't be like, you can't be running behind them all the time. When something is given, it is the client's responsibility. And in this case, it's more an athlete in many cases, especially when it comes to you. It's we as coaches, when you're training under somebody, we should make it easier for them, not more difficult. And a lot of us do have that problem. We are like, okay, we paid for him, then we'll do whatever we want. So that's not how it works. We should be responsible. And I'm pretty sure like you take an extra step always. Like you were there for the show in Goa with me. And that's big. I do believe. And you had all those visa issues too. Despite that, you somehow made it. And that's taking a step, an extra step, or, all that matters. I've also made sure that at least one of them from my team has always been there for, any client that is actually trained under us, because backstage, all these things can be very, very difficult. Now, okay, you can't do anything if you are in Dubai and somebody is in the US. It can be very difficult. But most of the cases when a coach can make it, that sends the signal to the client that, the coach really cares. And that's all that matters. In many cases, I think the best transformations always comes out when the client or the athlete knows that the coach has got his back. And I don't think that's said enough, because when you have a good relationship, I think people, go that extra mile to make it happen. So I always had a great relationship with you. You know that very well. Right from the start, I think everything was okay. It was smooth. The prep was smooth, thankfully. I didn't have to even go below 2,000 calories. That was the worst. I mean, the lowest we went to was 2000. I couldn't take that either, but uh, yeah, but still, I think when it comes to Coach Ross, one thing I'll always respect, and I always say that. I mean, you know it very well. Anybody who's asked me, I'll say, see, guys, don't take it as okay, he charges this much or he charges that much. Take it as okay, you want to improve, you want to become a better coach, you want to become a better version of yourself. You have to invest in somebody who's better than you and who's willing to take care of you. It's not just about who is better than you or who is more knowledgeable than you, but you have to reciprocate certain things.
All
I
chips are built on reciprocity, right? So at the end of the day, for me, first of all, I appreciate the kind words, and second, yeah, you're right. Like for me, when I go into a coaching relationship, yes, it is an investment of time and effort and money, but it's an investment both ways. And so for me, I really want my athletes and my clients, whatever vehicle their goal is in, whether it's a transformation, whether it's a photo shoot, whether it's a contest prep, I want them to feel exactly like you said, like I've got their back, and I want to be able to go the extra mile when it's possible to do so. Now, sure, something like Goa and traveling there, and I did the same for my client Nika recently for her pro debut.
Yeah.
Those are big gestures, and it's not possible to do with every client. But what I think is even more important than those big gestures at the end of a process, yes, it's an icing on the cake, it's a nice finish, is it's what you're willing to do to go the extra mile throughout the coaching process in terms of communication, in terms of answering messages, in terms of just doing that little bit more than what's expected from your sort of average coach, so to speak. So the fact that you mentioned that and that you appreciate that, I appreciate that, because I do try my best with every single person that I work with to really try to offer as much support and value within the coaching process as possible. So I'm glad that that's been your experience as well.